Let me know whenever you're ready.
All right, very nice. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon to all of our viewers. I am Sanya Shukla from the Startup India team at Invest India, the National Promotion and Facilitation Agency of India. On behalf of our entire team, I would like to welcome you to our Leaders webinar, where we are celebrating the contributions and achievements of women in shaping the ecosystem of India. Today's session focuses on business planning and attracting investment, with women leading the way. Women entrepreneurship has been one of the key driving forces behind India's growing startup and innovation ecosystem, as well as its overall economic development. On the occasion of International Women's Day 2022, we're focusing on raising awareness about the support that different stakeholders and enablers in the startup ecosystem can provide to aspiring women entrepreneurs and ensure a long term and sustainable impact. Today with us is Ms. Swapna Gupta, who is the director at Qualcomm Ventures India. She manages investments across all sectors in the technology space. She spends a significant amount of her time building high quality deals in the pipeline, executing those deals, and managing portfolios. She has led investments in companies such as Locus, Zadil, Shadowfax, NinjaCart, amongst many others. Prior to joining Qualcomm, she was a part of the investment banking team at EY, where she concentrated on private equity and M&A of technology and telecom companies. She is also part of the class 25 of the prestigious Kaufman Fellow Program. A big thank you and welcome to you, Swapna, for giving us the time and the opportunity to interact with you and learn about your journey. Is there anything you'd like to say before I delve into the conversation?
Not really, very excited to hear and chat with you and share whatever little I know of.
All right, very excited here too. So the first question that I would like to throw at you would be, what do you think about the progress of women entrepreneurs in India? And coming from the tech background, how do you feel women entrepreneurs have grown in the tech space?
Sure. No, I think it's very interesting times for India. I think the India we grew up in versus India that we see has grown leaps and bounds. And I think that's true in general for startup ecosystem. I think once an ecosystem thrives so well, I think it does evolve everything around it. So of course we see more and more women in mainstream entrepreneurship. I would say the only switch which I am still to see is I don't see enough and more women entrepreneurs in deep tech. I am seeing a lot more women entrepreneurs picking up projects or entrepreneurship journey. I would say in agri tech, say health tech, consumer products. Even if you look at Shark Tank, which is popular narrative, a lot of women entrepreneurs are still homegrown entrepreneurs. I'm not seeing a lot of them coming out into building large enterprise companies or large deep tech companies. I think it's happening, but still it's 5%. So I would say the tailwinds are great. A lot more women are taking the plans, but would like to see more and more of them, to be honest.
All right, on the basis of that, is there something that you think is contributing to them not participating so much in deep tech?
So I think it's true for any industry, right? I mean, I could say the same for even VC industry. There are only 5% women VCs in the whole ecosystem, right? I think it's more a funnel problem than anything else. So you usually do see people sort of start their journey like in organizations, right? They start at lower levels of the organization and they rise up to the ranks, but you don't see enough and more come to the leadership because the funnel keeps dropping off. And the similar problem is with women entrepreneurs as well, that you don't see enough of them take the risk to get out and start up. And it's a function of many things, right? For example, I ran this program at Qualcomm called Qualcomm Women Entrepreneurs India Network. And again, it was from that same thing that over last 5 to 6 years, what I was, and now it's been 8 years, I noticed this. I started this about 2 years back. And what I kept noticing is that there is so much talent around us, even when I work at Qualcomm, right? There's so much raw talent, but not enough of that talent was stepping out of their comfort zone to build something outside a large corporate. And when you probe these women entrepreneurs, right, you do realize that they come from a place where they really need three places of intervention. One is networking. Again, most women don't engage so much in networking as their other peers. So really a place, trusted network where they can ask, hey, this is my problem, how can I solve it? Can there such a trusted group be created for them? Second was learning. Again, women don't really like to do half attempted jobs. They would like to know everything about everything. So if I'm starting up, their ambition or aspiration is that I need to know everything about marketing, HR, finance, versus not understanding that over time these skills can be built in an organization when they start up. But again, rudimentary understanding of some of these domain expertise is important, so help them through that. And third is, I feel every generation goes through this shift, right? When I was growing up, probably there were one or two women larger than life heroes that you could really attribute to. Probably there was one Indra Nooyi, there was one Kiran Majumdar Shaw, and few more, right? But there were not so many who are very in mainstream. But today's world is very, very different. There are more and more people taking the plunge, so you have enough and more examples. So really find a way to work with these mentors to help you in your journey. So I think those three things are aiding the ecosystem, and those will enable the ecosystem. So I would say it's a transition we are going through, and in 20 years, I do suspect it will start looking much better the numbers than today.
All right, all right. No, fingers crossed. It's an upward trajectory. So coming to the next question, how has your personal journey been as a women entrepreneur? And were there any challenges you'd like to highlight, which could possibly give insight to other female entrepreneurs who might face similar challenges?
True. I always tell VC job is more an entrepreneurial job because you're in a way doing everything all the time. Because at Qualcomm we have very very lean team, and what we say is we are the janitor and board of director, right? You're really getting your hands dirty and then still sitting in the board meeting and trying to give direction to those companies. Again, you're switching on and switching off through multiple tasks. At one point of time, you're evaluating companies. At other moment, you're really going through this diligence documents and sort of figuring out how to structure a transaction. And at a third moment, you're really talking to your founder and fighting through one of his most imminent problems in some sense, right? So you're doing so many and much more. So I think one of the things which is very very important is for these women entrepreneurs, and as I've seen through my journey, is focus and defocus. Really find areas where you need to spend energies and deprioritize what you don't need to. Somehow we all get into this rabbit hole of trying to do everything or go really deep in, but there are times where you need to say, look, I've gone deep enough and now it has to be more 30,000 feet. But there are times where you need to say, look, I need to really dig deep enough to get it right. So really finding that balance, I see a lot of people struggle with, which is why you can be overwhelmed. So, and again, the other part I would say is find a lot of cheerleaders. These journeys don't have to be lonely, which means you need to find more peers to talk to with the network that I talked about, more mentors to soundboard with. Find an ecosystem of similar minded entrepreneurs you can reach out to. For example, today if I have an issue, I reach out to maybe other peers in the industry to understand, right, how do I navigate this. So there is no shame in asking. So really learn to reach out and ask more, and get many more people to come along with you in the journey rather than try to do a very very solo journey.
It's very nice to hear the coherent environment in the ecosystem with regards women entrepreneurs. Very nice to know that exists. So coming to the next one, now considering you're from the PE and VC background, day in and day out, you're vetting companies, you're going through pitch decks, you're going through profiles of entrepreneurs. How often is it that you come across women entrepreneurs? And if you feel like if it's not too often, what do you think are the constraints that women entrepreneurs face in coming forward and in applying for funding, for example?
I think you briefly touched upon it, right? So I think the funnel is broken, and when I say the funnel is
Mm.
broken, is you just don't see enough women entrepreneurs, and it's a function of everywhere in life how they've grown through the education system and corporate ladder, because most of these either come directly from college to startup or come from corporate ladders. So right, the ratio is very very skewed in a similar fashion, but I would say it's more skewed because again the risk taking appetite versus looking at the larger return picture. I think uh, I generally see women tend to sort of underplay that in some sense, because generally if you see how many women really take the investment decisions in their hand, right, that is something also we are trying to change in the ecosystem every day, that there should be more women LPs, there should be more women investing out there, right? So I think it's about taking charge of your life in some sense. And I think few things we could definitely do to fix is, I think Startup India is great, doing a great job. Invest India is great, doing a great job with some of these things, right? Getting more women to work along. I personally feel that most underrated thing and most underrated sort of investment that most of us do today is mentors. If there is a way to say get industry stalwarts, a bench of 20 people to work with women entrepreneurs, to help them through as simple a need as how do I structure my organization, right? That could be one of the pressing needs. And they may not have any soundboard. If we can put together such mechanism of structure, which can actually help people navigate this journey to not be a solo journey, I do believe we will see more and more women entrepreneurs step up. I think a lot of people say that funding is a panacea for all. I wouldn't say that. I think funding does happen if you're building the business right way, be it a woman or men, right? So you put a black box, I don't know what it is on the other side, whether a woman or man, and you will get funding. The question is how many women can you get behind that black box, right? Which means you need to create an ecosystem for them to know or be more assured that when I do this, I'm again sort of stressing on this that it doesn't have to be a solo journey, right? So how can we ensure that this journey is not solo for them?
All right. No, no, of course, that makes a lot of sense. But just to understand on an average from a layman to a person who's in the VC environment, on an average, how many women entrepreneurs would you come across, let's say, in a month when you see a lot of proposals coming your way?
So actually, my numbers would be super skewed, right? If I was someone who was investing in, say, I would say more consumer tech, more D2C brands, I would say probably the number would be, I don't know, but I'm taking a very, very wild guess. Probably be 1 is to 10, 1 is to 15. But when I look at our funnel, which is deep tech, right? So we are looking at companies which is building on top of 5G, AI, XR, IoT, some of the cutting edge technologies. And then could be sector agnostic, could be sector focused, but really building platforms and products on top of that to cater to the pressing needs, which would change the world in say next 10 years, right? In those categories, I would say that's further sort of missing in some sense because again, how many most of this talent which is coming out is either coming out of I would say good educational institutes like IITs, NITs, BITS, etc. Or they're coming out from organizations where they build technology products, right? Which is enterprise grade products, products which can be sold to a global audience. And then you look at the organization chart of these companies, right? You will find enough and more women missing. So if they're missing there, you just don't see enough of them coming out. So I would say the number is 1 is to 20 and not very heartening.
All right. No. And hopefully this will grow as well. I feel like we're at a stage, like you said, 20 years down the line, we're hoping to see a greater percentage of women, even in tech and
Yeah.
deep tech. So I feel like we've touched upon this before, but because I have it written, I'll just maybe see in case there's something additional you want to add. So there's that saying, right, that women are breaking the glass ceiling. So what is your take on women breaking the glass ceiling, and how, from a different perspective, how do you think the pandemic has affected women's growth in breaking the glass ceiling?
That's a good question. I think glass ceiling is in the mind. I always feel that because until and unless you take a chance on you, who else will take a chance on you in some sense, right? So I think it's important to take a chance on yourself and sort of repeat in your mind that I can, I will, and I shall in some sense. So I think once that happens, the glass ceiling sort of starts to fade away.
Mhm.
So there is no, I would say in corporate ladder, yes, you could say there is a glass ceiling because there's an organizational hierarchy, there's a way things are growing. But in entrepreneur world, I don't think there's a glass ceiling as long as there is willingness and ambition and there's a risk taking appetite. Just step out and you will see the world is your oyster. Uh, and here, I think the second part of your question, right, which is
The,
sorry,
the pandemic, the
yeah, which
pandemic
is
affecting.
pandemic. I feel it's a double-edged sword in some sense. A lot of people think that it's good in a way that you are able to have this sort of ecosystem around you at home. You're able to be at home, still do your work. But in entrepreneurship ecosystem, I also feel it's a job which needs more hands-on, getting the culture of the team right, being together. Again, I think everyone has a different worldview of this. There are people who believe that you can build remote teams and thrive. I believe that initial 0 to 1 journey is very, very hard, and you need more sounding boards. You need more people. Need to sort of be with people to sort of build that brainstorm it. And second is you need to step away from everyday household conversations to work conversations, right? In some sense, that switching on and switching off is very, very important. So I feel pandemic in a way was a good reset for people to rethink, and there's been this great resignation. So I'm hoping we'll see more and more people rediscovering themselves So that way, so good. But is working from home and building large organizations sustainable? Again, I may be absolutely wrong here, and the world probably will change this way. But I do believe there is a need to get out together and build that culture of the team and build an organization together, especially in 0 to 1 stage where things are just
Mhm.
not structured enough.
All right. No, of course, that makes a lot of sense. So now this question is a little again, maybe not directly down the lines of PE or a VC, because I feel like you have an all-round experience with all the spheres of the ecosystem. So how do you think? Anyways, we have programs where we have corporates and industries engaging with the startups. But what do you think, in your opinion, is a new way in which there could be a mutually beneficial link up between the startup ecosystem and, say, the corporates and the industries? And especially for women-led industries, because a lot of the times they don't really end up stepping up, like you said. So what is there? What can be done where the corporates can also possibly engage with these women entrepreneurs?
So I think that's a good question. I think a lot of corporates do realize that startups are eating their food for lunch, and when I say that, what that means is there's an increasing need to coexist, collaborate, and work together. Even at Qualcomm, right? While we are Qualcomm Ventures, we have multiple other things which are running to ensure we are very, very entwined with the startup ecosystem, work closely with them, and sort of together pave the future. While I look at us at Qualcomm, we did this great program called Queen, where we asked got more women entrepreneurs to step up, and now we have 25 of them who've graduated already, and some of them have raised capital, some of them have got acquired, and they're doing very, very well. What I realize is that, anyways, these women entrepreneurs had taken the plunge, which means they had all started. Now, what corporates could do is, in a sense, can I improve their odds? And you can improve anyone's odd by really doing the right intervention at the right place. So, of course, funding is one intervention where you have the capital, but capital doesn't solve all problems, right? Capital doesn't solve the problem of building teams. Capital doesn't solve the problem of GTM. Capital doesn't solve the problem of um, building the right financial machinery in the company to figure out the debt, equity, working capital, etc. So, what needs to be solved is more training grounds and collaboration opportunities, where probably corporates are working increasingly more with startups on their technical roadmap. So, for example, at Qualcomm, we know what are the chipsets coming, and we really go and tell startups, hey, stop working on your web. You need to focus on app. Everybody's on phone. Hey, you need to work. Gaming is the next big thing because everybody's on phone. Now we are telling everyone metaverse is the next big thing, which means either you need to make vertical solutions in metaverse, think about hardware devices, really ensure that the ecosystem takes off. So startups and corporates need to collaborate together. So here at Qualcomm, we'll probably work closely with these women entrepreneurs to help them understand how to pave their technology roadmap to be ready for that shift change when that happens. The other could be GTM, right? Wherein a lot of these enterprises could actually take them along as a plugged in solution and help them get to the right doors versus them trying to knock all the doors. So I think there are many, many ways. I think a lot of startups and corporates are also realizing this, and a lot of efforts are being put in the direction. But like they say, more the merrier. If we saw more and more such efforts, I do feel that there will be substantial difference in their journey.
All right, just on hearing this, I thought of something in my head. So, like you mentioned, you had a program for women entrepreneurs in Qualcomm Ventures. Do you think one factor for you, obviously, you're a woman and you understand the struggles of women entrepreneurs, hence you want to do it. But do you have any example where a woman-led company is also promoting, say, a women program or women entrepreneurship?
Women led company, you mean?
As no, no, I'm saying that you know how Qualcomm Ventures is led by you, right? You're the director there. Hence, you understand the struggles of a woman. Hence, you promote or you do your piece with regards women entrepreneurship. But do you have any example where, um, say, a non-woman led or like a man-led company is also doing something to promote women entrepreneurship? But is there a big
I think
factor?
it's I think it's wrong to say it's gender specific. I think for me it was more prominent or easier was because I feel I'm a function of I'm what I'm as a function of my education and my mentors and people who handheld me through the journey, right? So I want to, in a way, ensure that there are more and more people, especially women, who are given similar opportunities. So, right, of course, it's more personal. But when I look at even large corporates, right, every boardroom conversation today, and board, it doesn't have to be led by women, right? Every boardroom conversation today is how do we ensure participation of women in the workforce, in the ecosystem, right? I just, I do feel that it happens to more come out of women as a way of giving back, and all of us have that personality of, in a way, giving back. So I think women, if they've got somebody to help them through their journey, want to help more. But even men have that thing, right? When somebody has helped them through, they want to help more. So it doesn't have to be gender specific. Today maybe it is, because again we're changing the ecosystem one bit at a time. But I think everyone, for example, my partner in crime is a man who's running Quail with me, right? So both of us, he was
Mm.
running through BIC, which is Qualcomm Design in India. I was judging ventures, and between us, we decided that we both saw lack of women, right? So we together co-partner. So it doesn't have to be really gender specific, I would say.
All right, all right. That's also nice to hear. So now thinking of your whole journey from the day that you started till where you are now, I feel like you've already highlighted um, the stark changes that have come upon in the ecosystem for women entrepreneurs. But is there something that you personally have seen change from when you started, like as a personal experience? Maybe you could highlight that this used to happen, it doesn't happen now.
I would say two or three things which are very, very noticeable. A lot more funds are now stepping up and realizing that we need to do more, right? So one was corporate part, where a lot of corporates are stepping up and we need to do more. Even at fund level, when I look some of the large mainstream funds, they now have dedicated programs to work with women entrepreneurs, right? So there is more industry-wide acknowledgement that we need to change the way our boardrooms are looking, change the way our startup ecosystem is looking, right? So I think there is a large scale acknowledgement, and like Rome is not built in a way, everyone is putting those small little steps to make that significant change in the way ecosystem is. So that is one stark change. The second is the quality of women entrepreneurs, right? So I think now more and more women entrepreneurs are coming from a place of, I have done this, build this, and now I'm confident enough to get out and build it. Again, it's a function of funnel, that now you have more and more trailblazers who are ready to come and build and from the scratch and do much better. And the third is, I think the ecosystem in general has become more accepting and more cognizant. I would say that diversity is just not a lip service, but it is an important aspect of how teams function, right? It doesn't have to be no more support function, but it has to be the main function of how your organizations are being run.
All right, no, that sounds also very comforting to know that it's more inclusive now from when it was. Um, so now this question is a little I'd like to say slightly deep, for a lack of better words. So, so everybody knows that stereotypes exist for women, right? So, how do you think these stereotypes shape women's journeys in entrepreneurship? And like, how do you think these stereotypes impact their aspirations, their confidence, their behavior, and their journeys?
Um, that's a fair point. And I do feel it works both in a good way and in a way to improve your journeys, I would say. Good ways that generally people know that women are more empathetic, right? So you know that culturally, when they're building teams, people in that have a much more, I would say, nurturing work culture versus otherwise. The other is women generally tend to be labeled as, I would say, or I don't know how to say this, but let's assume more aggressive than assertive, because every time they sort of try to say something which could come across as dominant, it may come out as aggressive and not really assertive, right? So which means they are also more conscious of how to sort of convey the conversation, how to sort of ensure that the conversation is being channeled. So that actually works, I would say, more to their advantage in some ways, because they know exactly how the conversation is being going to steer versus have off remarks, right? For which there could be unnecessary repercussion. So I think in a way this helps them also. Any women, entrepreneur, VC, startup, ecosystem, whichever role they are, just helps them knowing the biases, just helps them easier to navigate the journey versus feel offended by it that, well, this is there, because there is no way to fix the biases. The only way to fix is it navigate in a way that you're not a function of those biases, I would say.
That is actually very well put. Um, so I think with that we've covered most of the questions that I had. I have to say that having this conversation with you while I was drafting the questions, I was thinking of what could be the general answers, and the answers that you've given are something I couldn't have thought of because they're just so well understood. Maybe because you've been through this journey yourself. They're very well put, and thank you so much for taking out your time for this session. It means a lot, and I'm sure a lot of the viewers that are watching have learned a lot that could possibly ease their journey. I'm sure the point that you made about mentors, I mean, nobody has to go through their journey alone, and you've highlighted that. So maybe if there was someone who is taking it on their own and they've seen that you have gotten to where you are, and I mean, I'm sure this is going to help a lot of people. If there's anything additional you'd like to add, because I feel like we've touched upon a lot of the things that I didn't think we would touch upon. So I'm a little out of questions, but if there's anything you'd like to additionally say before we call it a day.
Thanks, Anya. I think you did cover most of the points that are important to think about and mull about as you sort of traverse through this journey. My only ask to everyone is, whoever is sort of listening and watching in, is there's no better time to start up, right? The ecosystem is so thriving today, and I think it's more an enabler than a handicap today than ever before. So I would actually urge everyone who has been sort of struggling with some of these challenges, which are more, I would say, in your mind versus in reality, actually rethink through the revised ecosystem that we have today, and actually see them a lot of these things as enabler and take that journey, because there's no better time to start up than today.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Swapna. Thank you also to all of our viewers for joining in. And we hope this has been as helpful to everybody and as inspiring as it has been to me while conversing with Swapna. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Hannah, for this chat. Really enjoyed it.
All right, bye bye. Take care.
Thank you.